First of all, bring up the search box there by touching Apple F and type in operator. Hit enter, enter again, and it installs it onto this first track, which is great. I'm not going to go into too much of the FM synthesis right now, but let's just choose our routing algorithm, which is going to be the operator here, where we've got operator B, modulating operator A, and D, modulating operator C. Straight off the bat, if I have a listen to this, I'm going to use the keyboard to type it. Might have to turn up the volume just a little bit. For me to hear anything, I have to have the track record enabled here, and I also have to ensure that the computer MIDI keyboard is enabled over here, and I can do that by clicking on it or by the key sequence Command-Shift-K, turning it on and off, as you can see in the top right hand corner again. From there, let's go back to the global shell, which is just each of these tabs is a shell. The global one affects the output, the volume, the overall tone, and the overall time parameters. So any time parameters such as attack, sustain, are all adjusted by this guy. We're going to select this one. That is the frequency of the oscillator. It can be very high. Or let me just switch on my keyboard again by clicking up there, or Apple Shift K. And now I can use the keyboard. And then I'll hear my operator synth. If I change the pitch or the frequency of the oscillator, it goes up. Set it to 1 for the moment. We're going to click on the area here. I'm going to adjust the envelope to around 5 seconds. There we go. I got it right on. I'm going to adjust the release time to make it about 1.25 seconds. Nothing too scientific there. I just want it to be a relatively slow release. So when I release a note, it decays slowly as it builds up slowly by adjusting the attack time. Going now to this little one here, we're going to bring this second oscillator up. We're going to keep them all on sine wave to about -17. You don't hear much now until I change the pitch of that oscillator, because otherwise it's the exact same sound laid on top of itself. It increases the sound a little bit, but it doesn't change too much. If I push this up to 5, we get the 5th note in the harmonic sequence. Have a look at the handouts that I gave you regarding harmonic sequence. Learn a little bit more about that independently. But what it's done is given me a little bit of a high frequency sound there as well. A little bit of a bell-like sound. That's great. So we're on the road to creating our ambient patch, our generative. Before I add the random effect, I'm going to turn the browser off by holding down Command, Option, B. I'm going to double click over here and use that to add a note. I want you to add a note at C. C3, and I want you to double click just in that first little box, and that should give you a 16th notes there. Another quick thing, this little one up here allows me to turn on the draw tool, which, as you can see, rather than double clicking, I can single click. I hit play over here, I can hear 16th notes. No, I'm going to stop that and turn them all off. The other way, bring up this draw tool here. With caps lock on, hit the letter B. Just like that. And because I've got my help view, my hide, my info view switched on with this, or also shift forward stroke, turns on that view, I can see anything in the interface which has a shortcut. And as you can see here, I'm hovering my mouse at the top, and that shows me the info down here. It's hard to demonstrate that at the same time, but you can see the bottom left in the info mode that it's got draw mode or the shortcut, the letter B. So here we are. We've got our clip. We've got a single 16th note triggering it. Now once every bar, I'm going to get a bip. Okay. I'm going to change the length of, I'm going to change the length of that beep. I'm going to add a duration effect, which is called note length. I can get there. I'll show you how I got there again. Turn the browser off. I can get the browser on by doing Apple Option B. And there's there's many ways of skinning these caps, of navigating around in Ableton. The first one I will show you is going to MIDI effects, and then from there I just go to note length and I drag it on. I want you to set note length to about 9-10 seconds. And then this, as you can hear, changes the length of the note. They're no longer small or short, they're very long. After that, I want you to put a random effect while we've got all of these MIDI effects open. Again, if your browser is not open, Command, Option, B, open your browser. But we want a random. And what random it's going to do is it's going to take my single C. I'm going to switch back to the other view now. F12 allows me to shift between clip view or device view, where I can see the devices down the bottom. And I'm going to change the percentage of there being a random note to 72%. Now all of a sudden I've got some random notes being generated from that original middle C. Atonal because there's no tonal center. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to add the scale effect. Probably after load length is fine. I'm going to click on that, and you can see I've got the scale effect there. There's a whole lot of presets, and if that is not visible, I can click on the header of scale, type the letter Q, and it brings up all of the presets for that particular device that we're looking at the moment. I'm going to stick with some simple stuff. I might even just use a mode, a scale, and I'm going to use, rather than the blue scale, I'm going to use a minor scale. I'm going to go back to a pentatonic scale. I'm going to go for a pentatonic minor pentatonic. Should be in here somewhere. I reckon this is going to work a little bit better. The other thing I didn't do before, which I should have done, is clicking on this. I want it to have the long attack time, the exact same attack time as the other one. So if I click back down here, double click or right click here, and I'm going to copy the settings from oscillator A to operator C. So now I've got a nice long attack sound over both. Okay, so next I've got my attack, nice long attack. I've got a moderate release time. I've got some random notes going into it, and we're halfway to creating our ambient sound. You can see there at the output stage, I'm running very hot, almost into the red. I'm just going to bring that volume down a little bit. Okay, great. To add a little bit more random flavor to this, what I'm going to do is add the velocity plugin. And what this is going to do is create, I'm going to use this parameter here, and create random velocity. So we never know how loud the notes are going to trigger. I'm going to bring up the lowest velocity note to about 70 so that we're still hearing the notes that are triggered around 1 or 2 MIDI velocity numbers are not really going to be heard. So I'll bring the lowest velocity up to 72. We'll still get some changes in velocity, but we'll be able to hear all of them, which is important. You can see there, the velocity of the notes now are changing quite a bit. Great, so the next thing I would like to do is add, let me think, I'm going to add an LFO. I'm going to go to Max for Live here. If you don't have the browser visible, Apple Command B. I'm going to get an effect through here called an LFO. So this is a low frequency oscillator. It wobbles back in time, back and forth from a high value to a low value. Slow it down. High. And it will go low. I can map this to parameters within Ableton. This time I'm going to map the level of operator B, which as we know from here, it's going to change the sound of operator A. If I turn on my channel again here, you'll hear it. And you can hear it's adding and subtracting a brightness to the sound. If I turn the oscillator off, it's doing nothing. And because I have this LFO device changing the sound of the level or modulating the level, it's doing it automatically. I don't want it to do it in a predictable fashion like it is now. It's going up and down every 0.58 of a second, 0.58 Hertz. I'm going to change it, my waveform, to random. It's going to change in a random manner this often, but it could be up, it could be down, it could be anywhere. Rather than, you see how the steps here now are they're exactly that, they're steps. They're high values, they're low values, there's no ramp. You can smooth that out by using the smooth, and it's going to turn the volume up in a much smoother way. It smooths out the waveform. I can increase the rate so we can hear this. That's actually quite nice there, even at a fast rate. It just gives some warble to the note. Mess around with it, see what you like. I'm going to set it here to gradually change it over time. A bit slower than that. And I'm going to do the exact same thing for this operator, this oscillator, oscillator D, which is going to change the sound of this one C. What I haven't done is changed the pitch of C to where I want it to go. I want it to be up at 5. It's a bit sharp sounding, so I'm going to bring it down in volume. That's none of it. Turning it up like that just gives me a little bit of a more complex sound with a 5th order harmonic. I'll turn C on and off so you can hear what it's doing to the sound. This is A on its own. You can hear that high frequency. It's coming there. If I turn on B, it's going to change A. I'll actually put this up an octave. Slightly detune it so we get some more effect. No, I don't like that. I'm going to take it up. It's getting more complex all the time. I'm going to change the oscillator of this from sine to square wave. You can experiment with any of these to see how they all sound. I'm going to just play you A and B together. There's the A on its own. It gives you a bell-like sound, I guess, with oscillator B being set to a saw wave. A square sounds good too. A lot brighter with a lot more high frequency content. Let's switch those two off. C's back on, and this time we're going to modulate it with D. So I turn D up, we're going to hear the sound change. You might recognize some of these sounds. There's a lot of guys like Flying Lotus use this kind of FM synthesis a lot. And these modulation techniques, using this one to change the sound of that one. Very effective. Give you a lot of different sounds and parameters. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get an LFO device from the browser. Under Max for Live Audio Effect, I'm going to look for LFO, drag it in. This one is going to get mapped to that operator. Slow down the rate, like that. I'm going to set it similar to this. Perhaps I will keep it as a sine, just for the hell of it. Don't really mind. I just want it to change over time so that what we're hearing doesn't ever seem static, that we're, creating something new. I just shifted the tuning of that operator there, operator D, oscillator D, very slightly to introduce a little bit of chorusing or warble. If I fine tune it and run right up, you'll hear it goes very, very chaotic and discordant sounding. I'm just going to give it maybe a value of 3, like that. So we're getting an increasingly complex sound, and I'll show you. I'll turn these back on. If I double click the device headings, it shrinks them down, and if I double click the body of it, like that, it opens them up. But just so you can see better what I'm doing, I'm going to close down some of the things that we've already set, and we don't need to look back again. First one is, I'm going to turn down the randomizer. I know it's getting randomized. 72% chance every note will not be a middle C. There's 12 choices, all within an octave. Velocity, I've set it to create random velocities between 69, I'm going to make them a bit louder, and 127. I don't need to see that, I'm going to turn it off. And the note length, I'm going to bring it down to about 10 seconds. This just means, that each note will play for about that length of time, 10 seconds. Scale, all of those things, I'm happy to fold up so we don't see it. We've got the operator there. What I'm next going to do is open a reverb, close off my browser so you see the process as I'm doing it each time. Apple F brings up the Finder. I'm going to type in reverb. I'm going to hit enter. and it's added reverb plugin here. First things, that's a nice sounding reverb. I'm going to close off my browser, Shift B. I'm going to close off my inputs, I don't want to see those. That's it. I'm going to change the quality from economic to high so it sounds a bit more flashy. It's stereo, which means that there's a big difference now between the left and the right channels. If it's all the way down at 0, it's a mono reverb. All of this information is, as I said, info view. If I hover over it, you'll find out the information you need throughout your use of Ableton. This is an important one, the amount of dry versus the wet. I'm going to put it at 50, type in 50. I would like to increase the size, so the length. I've done that. You hear a loud note jumping out over the top there. Maybe a little bit more reverb. This is another chorus here, so I'll leave those switched off. So there you have it. That's our ambient drone creator. Off a single note. It'll create ambient drones all day long. So once you paired that with something like the Makey Makey or a video camera input, you could have people in an art installation turning on your set. You could have them actually creating the music with these kinds of random generation devices. What I'm going to do is go through further now and show you that with this single input being a middle C that goes for a 16th, I'm going to show you some really advanced stuff now, and we're going to do some routing and some mucking around, and we're going to use that with our a generative loop in the background playing the whole time.